Cyber war is no longer theoretical, and it is no longer in the realm of only governments and NGOs. Cyber war is a reality for almost every business, from SMBs all the way up to enterprise companies. For Tech Republic and ZDNet, I'm Dan Patterson with Tech Republic's Steve Ranger to discuss what we should expect going into 2018. Steve, everything from weaponized ransomware to IoT is on the way. What's at the top of the list?
Sure, Dan. So kind of looking out at 2018, trying to work out where this kind of stuff is going. I think probably a few things to kind of like lay out first. Firstly, we've often thought of cyber warfare and cyber weapons as this kind of gee whiz, kind of space age stuff that only happens in kind of spy novels. I think that may have been true maybe a decade ago, but actually now this is something that's going to be happening pretty much in any conflict you read about in the news. So whether it gets mentioned up front, probably not, but actually in the background, this is probably happening. This is not something that's just going to be used against super high value targets or anything like that. This is something that you'll probably see quite a lot of in any kind of conflict that big nations get involved with. Now, I think that's something that's really changed. Over the last few years, there's been quite a lot of excitement about when this stuff will actually get used in the real world and stop being just a kind of a theoretical thing and actually be kind of like out there. But you see all the big nations talking about building their cyber warfare and their cyber defense capabilities. You see NATO talking about how to integrate this in with everything else. And really, these kind of hacking and digital attacks, they'll just become part of the standard armory, as it were.
And so who are some of the actors deploying these attacks?
So you're going to see, I think, pretty much every nation state that is kind of like serious about this stuff will have something. Obviously, the US has been very vocal about building its cyber defense capabilities, and as has the UK, and pretty much all the big nations. As I say, NATO has already started talking about how it's going to integrate that in as well. That's kind of fine on the grand scale. What this means for you as an organization is that actually your systems might become part of that battlefield. Whether or not you're a military contractor or if you're just a big business, you may find that someone is poking and prodding at your systems to try and find a weakness that might get used later in a conflict that might happen years from now.
And what about ransomware? It's nothing new, but in 2017, millions were affected by it. What can we expect in 2018?
Sure, absolutely. I think this is one of the potentially interesting ways this stuff could develop is that ransomware has been a big story this year. Mostly that's been people trying to make money off of ransomware, but it's also shown the world that ransomware is a really good way of turning someone's very nice PC into a piece of useless plastic and metal. Inevitably, I think we will see ransomware being used not just to try and make money, but also for its destructive capabilities. Now, again, what you need to worry about as an organization is that most of these ransomware exploits, and most malware, it exploits weaknesses that people already know about. So if you haven't got your systems up to date, these are the sorts of threats that could be coming your way.
IoT is growing like crazy, the Internet of Things. We can expect 20 to 50 billion devices in the market over the next half decade. How are IoT devices related to cyber espionage and cyber attacks?
Well, if you go back maybe a decade and ask people, would they be putting lots of video cameras in their houses? Would they be putting a microphone in every room? They would probably say no. But now with all the kind of the smart speakers we've got, the kind of home security systems, what we're effectively doing is filling our houses with these things. We're filling every room with cameras, every room with microphones. Now that's absolutely fine for us because we're using them to improve our home security or just to kind of keep a check on things. But actually, the security on some of these IoT devices is not great, which means you're also giving anyone who might want to and has the skills, a way to surveil you or surveil the people around you. So, so I think that the insecure Internet of Things devices, of which there are far too many, could be a really good avenue for cyber espionage and anything like that. I think as we increasingly build these into our houses and into our homes, into our offices, that's going to become a factor and something we need to be aware of.
So during the holidays, but really any time of the year, I share this experience with, I think, probably countless others, maybe you included. I go visit my family and I become tech support. Part of tech support means that I update operating systems. Why is patching so very important?
Patching is massively important for everyone, simply because, as I say, most of the vulnerabilities that are going to get used against you are known ones. There are most people don't keep their patches up to date. They may be a few months behind. The hackers and especially the state-sponsored ones, state-backed ones, they will leap on any new vulnerability and exploit it as quickly as they can before the rest of us get around to patching our systems. Now, so really, we're talking about security hygiene here. I talk to a lot of people in this sphere, and they say, well, look, if we're going to try and test someone's systems and they haven't got their patches up to date, well, that's it, we're in, right? So the trick is to keep your systems as up to date as possible, right? I know many people will say, oh well, the trouble with new patches is they break old things. Well, yeah, sure, okay, but actually, if you keep your systems as up to date as possible, that makes you a much trickier victim to go after. Chances are people, the bad guys will go and find someone else who hasn't updated their systems, of which there will be many people. So people get very excited about 0-day attacks and kind of these, incredibly kind of like, sophisticated attacks. Those are a tiny, tiny fraction of the attacks out there, whether that's from hackers looking for money or hackers looking to steal your secrets or anything else. So, those are the ones you can't really do a lot about, the 0-day ones. You can do an awful lot about pretty much every other flaw by keeping your systems up to date, and that's really the kind of the basic security hygiene that everyone needs to think about.
And the other way to keep yourself and low-hanging fruit secure is encryption. Steve, I wonder if you could leave us with a few reasons why encryption is incredibly important now and going forward for especially companies ranging in size from your mom and pop all the way up to massive organizations.
Yeah, I mean, I think increasingly encryption is one of the keys to keeping yourself secure. Whether that's encrypting your data when it's at rest on a hard drive, or whether it's using some sort of encryption like end-to-end encryption when it's in transit. Governments have always this kind of like love-hate relationship with encryption. They want to access everyone's secrets, but they also acknowledge that we need encryption to keep our stuff secret from everyone else. So I think that I think there's a lot of talk about encryption at the moment. I think using more of it is probably a good thing. Certainly for corporates, I think they're looking at trying to keep everything as encrypted as possible, and that's probably a good thing for everyone.
It is. You can read Steve Ranger's entire story called The Future of Cyber Warfare, Weaponized Ransomware, IoT Attacks, and a New Arms Race by visiting Tech Republic. And make sure while you're there to subscribe to Tech Republic's cybersecurity newsletter.